Hello and welcome once more to Conscious TV. I'm Ian McNay and my guest today is Robert Waggoner. Hi Robert.
Hi Ian.
And Robert has written a book called Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self. And it's something intrigued me about the book because not only does he talk about dreaming and lucid dreaming, but he talks about his experience of finding another reality, another way of seeing who we really are. And that's in Conscious TV, that's what we look at more and more these days, who we really are. So we're going to talk to Robert about his adventures in lucid dreaming and also some of his deeper experiences and have, I hope, quite a wide discussion. So Robert, obviously we all dream.
Right.
Many of us don't know what lucid dreaming is and we'll come on to that. But let's look at, first of all, how you start the book. You talk about when you were a child, you had very vivid dreams.
You know, that's true. I would oftentimes remember my dreams quite vividly, and what surprised me, though, was occasionally I'd have precognitive dreams. Normally, I could tell they were a precognitive dream because there'd be a clock face in the dream that would start spinning wildly forward, and that was the signal that this was a precognitive dream. Or sometimes there'd be a voice behind me that would announce the events in the dream were going to occur in the next 3 years. And so I often wondered as a child, how do you get this forward-looking information in the dream state?
So what kind of events were these that you were dreaming about that were going to happen?
You know, oftentimes they were events that were personally related to something that was going to happen in my life. I remember in the one in which it said these events would happen in the next 3 years. One of them was about meeting what I consider my first spiritual teachers. And I was quite surprised in the dream to meet them, and it shocked me even more when I actually met them in physical reality later.
Hmm. And I know, especially when we're young, when we're children, the dreams are very vivid and they can be very scary at times. Was that something that you experienced?
You know, all of us experience nightmares on occasion and those kind of things. For me, dreaming was really a beautiful place of exploration and discovery and adventure. And so that's why I kind of fell in love with dreaming at an early age.
Okay, and what was the trigger to first find out about lucid dreaming? Well, tell us actually what lucid dreaming is.
Right, so lucid dreaming is defined as realizing within the dream that you are dreaming. So, for example, you might see your grandmother in a dream and realize, wait a second, Grandma's been dead for 10 years. This must be a dream. Or you'd be walking through Hyde Park and see a flying giraffe. And you'd think, wait a second, giraffes don't fly. This must be a dream. So oftentimes there'd be a trigger in there that would make you consciously realize this is a dream.
But you've got to be aware of it. You've got to be aware of that, because I have all kinds of ridiculous dreams, but there's not, as far as I'm aware, there's not an awareness in the dream that I'm dreaming. Right,
exactly. In normal dreams, we lack critical awareness. If we see Godzilla coming up the River Thames, we just think, oh my God, Godzilla's here, let's run.
Yes, yes.
And we just make up a story. But in a lucid dream, you would recognize, wait a second, Godzilla is a fictional character, this must be a dream. And then you could fly up to Godzilla and say, Godzilla, what do you represent? Or Godzilla, what are you doing in my dream? And what's interesting is oftentimes you get a response at that point of exactly what that dream symbol meant.
So how did you first experience this? Because you were quite young at the time, I think, weren't you?
So I was in high school and I was reading a book by Carlos Castaneda called Journey to Ixtlan. It's his third book. Carlos Castaneda, of course, was a UCLA graduate student who was interested in studying psychoactive substances like peyote and mescaline. And so he went down to Arizona to try to meet a Native American teacher. And he met this gentleman, Don Juan, and they formed a relationship over a course of many years. In this book, Don Juan tells Carlos he wants him to find his hands within a dream and become aware. And so they have a little bit of a conversation about this, and I'm reading this as a 15, 16-year-old young guy, and I think, well, there's not really very many instructions, so this is what I'll do. Each night, before I'd go to sleep, I just looked at my hands while telling myself, tonight in my dreams I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. And I just do that over and over and over until I got sleepy and fall asleep. 3 nights of doing this each night before I'd go to sleep. On the 3rd night, I'm walking through a high school hallway when all of a sudden, like they're spring-loaded, my hands go boom right in front of my face. And I go, my hands, this is a dream. And it was such an incredible sensation to realize that those people over there, I now realize were dream figures. And the wall that was to my right side was dream stuff. And it was amazing to be aware within.
But did you have a feeling at that point? Was there a feeling of excitement or anxiety or?
Oftentimes, when people become lucidly aware, the first thing they have is a sense of lucid euphoria. That they have this incredible sense of kind of realization and mastery. And so you have to be a little bit careful, Ian, because if you get too excited, you'll pop right out of the lucid dream and wake to waking reality. And so what happened in this particular dream, I walked through the doorway, I started staring at the wall of the administration building in the lucid dream, and it started to shake, and I realized, oh, the dream's going to collapse. And I remembered that Don Juan had told Carlos Castaneda never to stare at anything too long, because if you would, the dream would collapse. And then he said, if that started to happen, then look back at your hands to renew the power of dreaming. I looked back at my hands, and now something strange happened. I became a dot of awareness that was floating through the palm prints of my hands as if they were giant canyons. And I'm floating through there thinking, wow, this is a lucid dream, this is incredible. I'm just this dot, and I know I'm floating through my own palm prints. Then I bounced back to original size, decided to go flying, started to fly, got so excited, I woke up. So that was my first, lucid dream.
But as a kid, this is a wonderful adventure, isn't it?
Oh, it was quite shocking. And the amazing thing was, of course, I was in high school, so I had to tell my high school friends. And they all told me, oh, you can't do that. You can't become conscious within the unconscious. And I said, but I am. I am, and this is how you do it. And so some of them I taught, they were able to do it and all. But it really wasn't until 5 or 6 years later that the scientific evidence emerged that proved lucid dreaming existed.
Okay, so who actually did the scientific evidence, and how did they prove this?
Well, there were actually 2 people, you could say. There was Keith Hearn here in England at the University of Hull at the time. He was a graduate student who knew a lucid dreamer named Alan Worsley. But Keith Hearn was wondering, how could I prove that he was lucidly aware? And then he realized that in dreaming, you have rapid eye movement. So he thought, what if I put polygraph pads on his eyes to get his rapid eye movement, and then had him signal from within the dream by moving his eyes left to right that he was consciously aware. And so that's what he did in 1975, he and Alan Worsley. Then Stephen LaBerge, separately, apparently came up with the same idea, and using himself as a subject, did the same thing in a sleep lab in 1978 in Stanford. Stephen LaBerge went on to publish his work in 1980 and became more associated with lucid dreaming as a scientific adventure.
So he was moving his hand in the dream?
Yeah, so
he was physically moving his hand?
Well, he was... Here's what Stephen LaBerge said happened. He became consciously aware. He remembered that he was in the sleep lab, that he needed to signal with his eyes. So he said in the lucid dream, he put out his dream arm and he moved it left to right 8 times, following it with his eyes, because he thought on the polygraph pad they would see the pattern of this very strange pattern of eyes moving left to right 8 times. And so now that's what we call signal verification of a lucid dream. But the amazing thing is, lucid dreaming has this vast history in spirituality and parapsychology and shamanism, but it wasn't until 1980 that the scientific evidence emerged.
Yes, and from what I've read, the bits I've read in the past, is a lot of it is drug-induced, either mushrooms or other drugs, and you're doing it completely naturally.
Right. So a lucid dream, of course, is becoming consciously aware within a dream. And so other experiences with drugs or ayahuasca or something, I would consider that a chemically induced dissociative state. Lucid dreaming, of course, is a very natural state. Every night we spend about 25% of the night in the dream state. And so becoming consciously aware within the dream is a very natural and very normal sensation.